You're alive. Okay. Life. Alrighty, we've got one person here. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to One on One with Uncle David. I'm truly excited tonight about my guest. You know, as we go through our journey, in order to achieve our greatness, at some point we have to tell our story, and you have to say it out loud so that everybody can hear it. And it's just a matter of how much courage do you have to tell your story. Well, my guest tonight has a story to tell, an amazing story of accomplishment, of pain, of just about some of everything. From young age, she was subjected to sexual abuse as she grew into a teenager, becoming pregnant at 13, having a baby at 14, and then, living life and thinking that, okay, I've met my Prince Charming. Here he comes. He's going to sweep me off my feet and whisk me away to this life that is just so magnificent. Come to find out that he wasn't a prince at all. And she ended up in a women's shelter because of the result of domestic violence. However, she did not let that stop her. And as she says, she made the decision to go for the life that she deserves. And now she's living it, and she's here to tell us about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Ray Wright. Hello, Jamie. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal, David. Happy Tuesday. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here. It is an honor to have you. As I said, I am glad to be the vessel to help you share your story with people that may not otherwise hear your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am honored. Thank you for using your platform, not only to highlight my story, but to give hope, to give resources, information about, domestic violence. So thank you. I honor you, brother. Like I'm inspired by you. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Now, before we get started, I want to let everybody know that if you look at the top, if you're on YouTube, when you come in the room, pinned to the top is the information for the National Domestic Violence Hotline, the phone number, and the website. Also, if you look at the screen, it is there as well. If you know someone or if you are experiencing domestic violence, let somebody know. You're not alone. We are here, or they are there to help you. And for those that know somebody, one of the things that I've heard Jamie say is that don't be judgmental. When they come to you, don't judge them, but I would let her say it in her words, and maybe you'll better understand it. The first question is, who is Jamie Wright today?
Wow, David. Jamie Wright today is a humble, still a very country girl from Northeast Oklahoma, but I am a humbled, grateful servant of my Creator, just looking to use my life as a testament of the power of making the decision to overcome. So that's who I am. I'm just a small town girl from Oklahoma.
Now, starting from, I guess, it's your earliest memories. What was life like?
Wow. So my earliest memories, life was hard. And that's one of the things that I've discovered through therapy, is in one of the things that I know to be certain about my life now, why I have so much strength and tenacity, is because from an early age, my sister and I, like, we've always had to be in survival mode. So yeah, my earliest memories are not so good, David. Like, filled with domestic violence, hearing and seeing my mom get abused, being sexually abused, but not understanding that it was abuse. It was very normalized. I thought for a very long time that I somehow deserved it because my body responded in a way that anyone's body should. So yeah, it was very, very tough. But my good memories are just hanging out with my grandmother and my cousins, and even when my mom was, she rocked in this dual space. In the community, she was a very strong woman. NAACP president, created a organization in the Department of Corrections where we're from. And so those are my fond memories of seeing her, like, help people, seeing my grandmother serve the community, my auntie play music in church, one of my aunts, a United States sailor. She was in the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, everything wasn't bad by any means.
Yeah, well, there were some good times, and that's a good thing. When did the abuse start?
Ooh, my earliest memory, I was probably around 4. And I remember my sister holding me in her arms and my mother screaming for help. And as a little girl, I had an issue wetting the bed because I was very scared to get up out of the bed to go to the bathroom. And this particular night, I wet the bed on my sister, and she I remember her holding me, saying, just reassuring me that it was okay. Like, literally, as I heard my mom scream at the top of her lungs for help. There's some memories that, as I've started doing therapy, the last, like, trauma-based therapy, the last maybe year, that I'm starting to remember, like my hands being burnt, my stepdad, burnt my hands with hot water. And yeah, but about 4 years old, hearing my mom screaming literally for help as she was pretty much getting the dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beat out of her.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. But to see where you are now and to hear what you've been through, for you to be able to tell this story with a smile. And I mean, everything that I've watched where you're talking, you've come from a place where it's like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, she is one of the strongest people that I've seen, because it's almost, I guess, effortlessly, but I think as you're telling it, there's sometimes when you are going back through it, and it's like, okay, but you're saying it now with, like, okay, yeah, I'm here and I don't have to deal with that. I've overcome.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing thing. I commend you. I really do. Now, can you tell us about the power of the 3 C's? I heard that, and I'm like, and I was going to try to wait until later on, but when I opened up my book, I'm like, it's right there. Ask her, what it is, because this is something that not only for domestic violence survivors or people that are actually going through it, it is something that can be used in life, period.
Period.
So, yes, just tell us about the 3 C's, the power of the 3 C's.
Yes.
And where it came from.
Oh, where it came from. Yeah, I have to always plug the Houston Area Women's Center, right? That's the place, that's the women's center that I spent nearly 3 months at and had the opportunity to start my healing journey. And the psychotherapist there, she promised me that if I trusted her and trusted the process, that she would help me start my healing journey. So I got the power of the 3 C's from a lady named Mamta Chopra, and she is the psychotherapist at the Houston Area Women's Center. And the power of the 3 C's is it has everything to do, David, with our thoughts, right? Because so if we think it, so we are, whether it's good or not so good, right? So 3 C's is to check our thought. Well, we got to catch them, catch the negative, disempowering thoughts. So for example, when I say, before we started your show, I'm like, okay, David, how I look, because I can't rip the trauma out of my life, right? I can't rip the pages of the things that's happened to me out of my life. So I very much still coexist with them every day. So I rock in my insecurities and all of that. However, I have the tools to catch. I have the awareness to catch my thoughts when I'm thinking them. So it's catch them, check them, and change them. And those are the thoughts. So having the ability to catch the negative thought, having the ability to check it, like, where is that coming from? And I oftentimes say, David, I wouldn't recommend anyone spend a lot of time there, right? Because if you're anything like me, if you spend time there, we get stuck and then it's hard for us to go forward. But after we check them, we change them, right? Say, no, I am not it's not about your hair, Jamie. It's about sharing awareness and providing hope alongside this brother to in an effort to change the world. So it's our thoughts, the power of the 3 C's. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And those are things that we can use even as we go through our everyday life, because it's like, okay, let me stop before I make a move. Because sometimes people say, well, I didn't have time to think about it. You do. They don't understand that the brain works a lot faster than they can ever imagine, because you can stop and say, hold it, wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't do this. So you stop, you caught the thought. And now you're like, okay, what's the next thing I need to do? I need to check it. Yeah. Okay, is this the right thing to do? Should I really be doing this? Okay, which direction should I go? And if you feel like you're going in the wrong direction, now's your chance to change it. And that can happen just like that. But some people seem to think that it's like, this long process. They watch the movies and they see all this slow motion stuff. And it's like, okay, but no, the brain just boom. And, a split second decision can make the difference.
Love it. I absolutely love how you dissected that. I couldn't have said it any better. There we go.
Yeah, I've been doing some reading and some for me, just to learn how to get through the day, and how to help others. And so I find that it works. You just have to listen, and just use your brain. Some people don't want to, and they want to blame somebody else. But now it's on us.
It's on us.
It's absolutely on us. Let's see. Okay, now let's move to when after the baby. At 13, you're pregnant, and I know you've got to be confused. Not understanding what was happening. How did you process that, and did you have help processing that?
Mm-hmm. So how did I process it, David? When I reflect back, I don't even know if I had the capacity to understand the severity of the decision that I was making at the time in terms of being a mother at 14. I just knew that the right thing for me to do was to give birth to my child. So I don't know really that I processed it. I know that I was just rocking in the space of, no, Jamie, do the right thing. Like, you made the decision, you have the baby, you suck it up and you give this baby the best life that you can. Did I have help? Absolutely, David. Like, when my mom found out I was pregnant, she beat me with a broom. I mean,
Wow.
beat me with a broom.
Wow, that's a great way to get started. Like, but I guess because of the space that she was in, and so she didn't know how to respond. So usually, if that's how people have responded to you, then it's quite a natural thing. Not that it's right, but it's just the natural reaction is to, okay, this is how it was done to me when I said such and such. So now I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. So boom, I'm just going to beat this child, because who is she to be getting pregnant at such a young age?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. She only reacted the way that she knew how. Like you said, I mean, I don't blame her one bit. I mean, it was what it was, right? And now that I'm the proud mother of my daughter is now 26, about to be 27, and I have a 20-year-old. I don't know that I would at that point. I don't know that I understand why my mom responded the way she did.
Yeah.
But the support part, David, I've been absolutely blessed. So my grandmother, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and even from a little girl. And so my grandmother, when I went into labor to have my daughter, she came up to the hospital. She prayed with me. My grandmother has always been my number one fan. She told me from the moment that everybody around me realized that I wasn't going to have an abortion or give my daughter up for adoption, not judging anybody. We all got to do what we feel like is best for our lives. Yes. My grandmother always told me, she said, Jamie, you're not going to be the first and you're not going to be the last. But what you're going to do is you're going to give this baby love and do the right thing. So she taught me how to breastfeed. I couldn't leave the house for, I had to sneak out the house because like, you sit down with that baby, and she. So I always had support. I had my mom, after she accepted the fact that I was pregnant, and my mom was 47 years old when she lost her life to cancer. So my daughter was the only grandchild that she was able to, she got to experience being a grandmother before she passed at a very, very young, age herself. So, and I was pregnant with my second daughter. So yeah, I had to support my grandmother, my cousins, my aunts and my uncles. Like, everybody was just like, okay, Jamie, if you're going to have this baby, you're going to do the right thing. And I had one particular cousin to say, I moved in with her, and my brothers, we're not brothers and sisters from the same mother, but we all grew up together. Like back in the day, how everybody.
Oh yeah.
And my cousin said, well, you're going to go to school and you're going to get up and, so, because I dropped out of junior high. I dropped out of school when I was in the 6th grade.
Wow.
When I found out I was pregnant and going into the 7th grade. So I literally, I attended half of 6th grade, none of 7th grade, none of 8th grade. So I don't have that traditional part of education. So to answer your question, yeah, by God's grace, I had support. And I know it's because my grandmother was at the root of it all.
What grandma sounds like, grandma was a G, as they like to call them. She was everything. She was like, okay, girl, we're not doing this. All that pity party stuff, and now we're gonna get it together, and you're gonna be okay. And it was good to have that, because a lot of young ladies don't have that, and so they grow up because their mothers didn't have it. I was talking to my son, and I'm like, this is the generation of the babies that had babies. And so now what we're seeing is, some of these kids growing up and they're acting out and they don't know, because the mothers nor the fathers didn't have the capacity to actually teach them, because nobody taught them. And you can only teach what you know, because these kids do not come with instructions. I wish they did, but hey, we have to do the best we can.
And that's why I honor you, like having these platforms and these educational based, hope based podcasts and things like that. Like, hopefully we can start to shift the narrative. in terms of like, yeah, I didn't have it, but I would know that I want more. So I'm going to tune in to, you know, David's podcast to learn some practical tips on how to live my life different and hopefully change the generational unhealthiness of it all. So
yeah, because you never know who's listening, you never know who's watching. So you may help somebody not realizing that you helped them, and they will take that information and pass it on to someone else. And then, you know, at some point somebody will say, hey, I saw Jamie and she said this, and that's why I was able to do XYZ. Education.
Come on now. Love it.
I understand that you have your master's. Now, when you got your master's, did you think, when you thought back to when you stopped going to school in the 6th grade, that you would be standing there with this piece of paper in your hand with this major, you can't sell it anything other than as a major accomplishment, especially coming from here, and now you're here. And did you see that coming?
Not at all. Not at all, David. Like to move out of the projects in Muskogee, Oklahoma, where I lived, to like normal apartments was my aspiration, right?
Okay, right.
And when I bought my first little house, it was 900 square foot when I was 18 years old. I had it made. So at that point, no, I wasn't thinking about no master's degree or anything like that. So to answer your question, like I was good to, you know, I remember being afraid of when I started making too much money and I wasn't going to be able to get food stamps anymore. Okay. I remember thinking like, how am I going to survive? Because I was getting $238 a month in welfare and like about $400 a month in food stamps from the time I had my daughter till I was 16, able to work. Because I mean, I wasn't able legally to drive, work, or anything when I had her. And I remember when I started working, thinking, we're going to starve to death. You know, I'm making $4.75 an hour at Sonic, and they're going to take me off of food stamps. So to answer your question, when I pushed and got my master's degree, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make $60,000 a year, and we're gonna be rich, y'all."
that was the life. That's the life. That was the life.
Come on now.
You know, and okay, now let's get to Mr. Prince Charming.
Yeah.
Where'd this guy come from? And and I won't say what happened, because, you know, at that point you thought, hey, this is the guy. You know, they come in. It's like the story about the lion in sheep's clothing, the wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, he came in and
swept a sister off my feet. You couldn't tell me nothing about him. Yeah.
And so you moved.
Very.
From Dallas, I believe you said.
Yeah, I moved from Dallas to Houston, where I currently live still now. Yeah, so he literally swept me off my feet. I finally thought, David, like, oh yes, this is the one I can kind of kick back and allow myself to be loved and to love, and it's just gonna be great. And so yeah, after we exchanged vows, and I moved from Dallas to Houston to start this happily ever after life with Prince Charming. Yeah.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Jamie went through this. She's probably like a year out now from starting from that moment where her life changed to where she could get to the point where she could get the life she deserved. So it's not like she's been doing this for 20 years and she's the spokesperson that has been doing it this long. No, this is a person who has been doing this for just a year. But when I listen to you talk, it's like she went through, she's, you know, it's been a while since she's been out, you know, because sometimes it takes longer. I guess it depends on the individual and how much strength you have and want to be able to say, okay, I'm pressing forward. I got this. You know, it's only been a year, but man, and as a matter of fact, I think the first time I saw you, it was like your first interview. I think maybe it was like 8 months out of the shelter. And so it's like, this isn't like, and listening to you talk, people would think that, oh, dang, she's been doing this for a long time. Nah, that is a testament of your strength, your courage, and your want to. Because I know being with him, were there red flags?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But, sometimes we run through the red flags. We see them, but it's like, okay, they're going to change. And it's not just men, it's women too. And we feel like, okay, they're going to change. Something's going to happen and they're going to change. And so we have this misguided notion of love, that love will conquer all. And, but not understanding that it's going to take a little more than love, because obviously something happened to him in his life. And the only way he knows how to react is to just, and the explosions are small and then they grow. So when you first noticed, what was that like?
I was shocked. I was the first physical occurrence. It happened so quick, and it was so different from who I knew him to be. I was shocked. I was literally in shock for like maybe a day. You're talking about process. I had to process what had happened, because we're talking about a man, David, that I will never damage his character. First of all, because he has children, right?
Right.
And he's an ordained minister. We're talking about a man, if you see him, you would not think that he has the ability to knock someone's teeth loose. You just wouldn't. So when it first happened, I was in shock. I'm like, this is not the guy that I just prayed with, and retired Army, was a medic in the military, meaning that he helped, people, put him back to life, and he was a firefighter. So he ran into burning buildings.
Wow.
Where people was running out of them, right? So the red flags was there. And the abuse started about 3 months into our relationship. So it wasn't like a long drawn out, but I always was hopeful and even praying like, Lord, it'll change, because this behavior is so inconsistent with who he is 90% of the time.
Okay. Yeah. And you're probably thinking that, then I guess it got to the point where you started to think, okay, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I said something, I did something, and I've never experienced it. So I can only go by what I've heard. And it's like a whole process. It's like they start like small and they say little slick stuff. And it's almost like a child trying to see what they can get away with. They'll say a cuss word and the parent, doesn't say anything, or they'll do something and the parent doesn't do anything. Like, okay, ooh, I got away with that. Now let's see what I can do. And then it just escalates and escalates. And then it gets to the point where it's like, hey, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Ain't nobody saying that. Ain't nobody checking me. So, hey, I got her where I want her, and she's all in.
That's it.
Thought.
So
he thought.
So he thought. And you think about it, like I was conditioned from a very early age to accept that kind of behavior, right? And that's why even before I started sitting on the board of directors at the Houston Area Women's Center, I was the ambassador first, because I did not know that there was there's textbook research. There is words, there's terminology that describes these situations, these domestic violence situations, like the cycle of violence, the red flags. I didn't realize they were red flags, David. I just was like, well, that's what love looks like. And that's my, right? So I didn't, I'm thinking that, like you said, well, Jamie, if I wasn't so strong personality, if I shut up and sit down, I wouldn't get hit. Not that, no, it's a power and control.
Yeah.
Thing, right?
That's what it's.
And I didn't learn that until I went to the shelter and, and started breaking loose my, why I was so accepting and understanding domestic violence.
Okay. Take us April 23rd. That's the day that your life changed.
Yeah.
what was that like? Or how was that day? How did it start? The day.
The day. Well, the day started the morning. It started in the morning. We had been arguing the night before, and we did marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling. So one of the things that the pastor that counseled us, one of the tools that he gave us, well, he gave us two tools. Hey, when we're arguing, kind of go in your separate corners, calm down, because you might say things you don't mean and that you regret when you're upset. So just calm down, and then find a couple that you can trust to go to when things get tough. So we had kind of had a spat the night before, and well, the week before, I could tell the tension started to mount, right? Because he knocked the book out of my hand. He hadn't hit me at that point, but he knocked the book out of my hand and pushed me backwards. So the physical stuff had kind of started, even though he vowed that he was going to stop hitting me. And I thought in my mind when I moved from Dallas to Houston that it was going to release some of the stress and tension because we were going to be in one household and all that good stuff. So we had a little bit of a spat the night before, woke up, around 7:00 that morning on the 23rd, and thought we could pick the conversation up from the night before, and turned bad real quick, David. It really, really quick. And so with the physical stuff, like he took me and slapped me on both sides of my face, and I ended up on the bathroom counter, and it was just not good. And I don't even remember how we ended up in the bathroom. I don't remember how we ended up in our study. There was a study right off of our bedroom, and he pushed me over a chair, and I picked up a serving tray, because in my mind, David, I'm like, I don't like this. Is no, I don't want this. And I picked it up, and I remember him saying, "Go ahead and hit me, bitch. I'll kill you anyway." And at that moment, I knew that I knew if I would have even remotely went to like put the serving tray up, like I was going, he very, very much was capable of killing me in that moment. So I had an appointment. I left for my appointment, and while I was gone, I'm sorry. And before I left, one of the couples that we identified that we would reach out to was our pastor and his wife. So as I was leaving to go to my appointment, I asked him to contact our pastor to see if he would counsel us. And so while I was gone, he told me, I got to touch with our pastor. Everything's going to be okay. Came back home, David, even against my better judgment. But at that point, where else was I going to go?
Right.
Like, at that point, only a few people knew that the abuse had started, but I wasn't going to go running back to Dallas. Like, that was going to be embarrassing. So I was going to go back home, blend in with the walls, because he said everything was going to be okay. Went back home, and in a matter of maybe 10 minutes, that's when he hit me in the face with my laptop and knocked my teeth.
Wow. And this was all during COVID?
All during COVID.
So now you get to the shelter.
And,
because I know it's like you go from living here and in this space, and it's and then you get to the shelter and you're like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did you want to stay?
Heck, I wasn't staying. No. What I look like staying at a homeless shelter, David? Like, I was in the middle of COVID too. And I was in such shock the night that I got there. I really didn't. I think I was in autopilot mode. I didn't even really realize I was going to a shelter. All I knew was I was going to somewhere safe,
right,
and clean. Safe and clean, because it was about 11 o'clock at night by the time everything transpired and the police came and blah blah blah, and they guided me to the shelter. I didn't even realize it. And I remember, and I will never forget, and this is one of the reasons why I go so hard in the paint about the advocacy part of domestic violence. When I got there and they checked me in, and at this point my face has started to swell, so I'm looking a hot mess. Blood still, blood still on my clothes. And this little girl, David, was in there with her mom. She's about 7 years old. And she walks in the lobby, and I can tell that she was trying to have her manners right and not stare at me. But she stared at me.
Yeah.
And I said, there is no way this little girl should be looking at me like this. She should be looking at me standing behind a podium, talking to David on this podcast. She should not be staring at me and my face discombobulated, because that's telling her that, in my mind, it's telling her it's okay.
Yeah.
The psychology piece of it. So yeah, so I'll never forget that. And I'm like, no, we've got to change the narrative of this. And if I have to share my story and put myself out there to say, hey, this is not okay, we can choose to do it a different way, I'll do it for the rest of my life. So no, when I got there, I went to sleep and all that, still in autopilot mode. In the next morning, David, when I woke up is when I realized like I was in the middle of COVID, because everybody was walking around with masks on.
Right.
And so I went to see my case manager, and she's giving me the resources, and she was like, well, go talk to our psychotherapist. Now, at this point, I didn't even know what a psychotherapist was.
What you mean? Who that? Because, I was watching something, Jamie Foxx, the other day, and one of the things was Black people don't go to therapy. So who is this lady? What are you talking about? I got to tell them? Yeah, I will go home.
And that's David, I went to their psychotherapist. I'm like, you need to explain to me, please, ma'am, how I can go back home. And that's exactly, I didn't go in there like, oh, I need therapy, or what is it that you do? I'm like, checking the box. Like, I went to the case manager. I'm going to go to this psychotherapist because that's what the case manager told me to do. And I'm going to ask this psychotherapist, how do I go back home? Because I am not staying in this homeless shelter in the middle of COVID. I'm just not going to do it. And so at that point, that's the part that changed my life for the rest of my life. She told me, she said, yeah, if that's your choice, we're here to empower you. I will give you the tools to go back home. And she started to tell me about a safety plan. And I'm like, a safety plan? Because I didn't know about this stuff. And for anybody watching, a safety plan is at the point that you make the decision that you want to stay at home with your abuser, that's your choice. Create a plan that when things get a little crazy, that you can leave the house safe and come back, or make the next best decision for yourself to get away from the situation until it calms down. But anyway, so I realized, like, wait a minute. If I go back home, you're saying that I can come, like, that there's a possibility that I'll be back in here? And she said, well, you can do that, or you can stay and I will help you figure out why your tolerance for BS is so high.
Okay.
And I said, I'll stay. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history.
And the fact that they love you, and you've done something right, because now you're on the board of directors, you're the ambassador, you are talking about things that some people find it hard to talk about. I can't imagine, first of all, you have to get through your pride and say, hey, you know what, there's a problem. I shouldn't be here. Then there's that fear, and especially if you have children, it's like, okay, I got to get out of here, but how do I get out? And, they don't understand that there are resources.
That's it.
And so for you to be able to it's just like, it has become a normal conversation for you to be able to tell people, hey, this is what happened to me. And I can help you so that you don't have to get to this point. Or if you've gotten to this point, you don't have to continue to go through this, because you don't deserve this. You can find a life that you deserve. Now, where are you now?
Oh, my goodness, David. I have never in my absolute life been as free and as happy and as whole and complete as I am now. I still very much live in Houston. Some people are like, are you afraid that blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no, because here's the thing. If nobody is here to stay, right? We're all passing through. And if by me living my truth in a way that hopefully inspires, educates, bring awareness to individuals, men, women, abusers, victims impacted by domestic violence, I'll live it out loud. I'm not going to go running back to Dallas or Oklahoma or running back nowhere. I'm going to stay right here and speak my truth. So I have a phenomenal church family. Oh my goodness. My spiritual community is beautiful. My swing out dance community is beautiful. My family and friends are beautiful. I'm meeting beautiful people along the way. I'm on podcasts like yours. I serve in the community. Like I love my life.
And that's a great thing. And that's what I was saying earlier when we were talking, that once you make that decision to move forward and show up, that the people that you need, the resources, the money, whatever it is you need will come to you, because you've decided that, hey, you know what? I'm not living small. I'm going to get the life that I deserve, because nobody deserves to be treated that way. So here I am, and I'm coming out here. I'm out here now. And so I'm going full speed ahead, and I don't care, what you say. I'm doing this, whether you come with me or you don't.
That's it. Because I believe in my heart of all hearts, David, I am no different than anyone else, right? The only difference is I made the decision, right? And so I believe with my whole heart, if I continue to show up like you said and say, y'all, let's make the decision to push. I don't care what that pushing is. Because if this country girl from Northeast Oklahoma can overcome, this is what I know for certain. You can too.
All right. Now I'm going to open up the chat for questions. But before I do, I'm going to ask my question.
Yeah.
If you could talk to that scared 13-year-old girl that's pregnant and headed to 14, confused, Jamie today, what would you say to her if you could talk to her right now?
You'll be okay.
That's all she needed to hear. That would be all she needed to hear. It's for somebody to say, I got you. And for you, that was grandma.
Yeah.
Grandma was like, I got you.
Yeah.
You don't worry about nothing. We're going to learn this, and I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to hold on to you. Yeah. And, that was a wonderful thing, because like I said, there are some who don't get that.
Yeah.
They don't have that person to say, hey, yeah, you something bad happened. And like you said, I've heard you say numerous times, you were victimized, but you're not a victim.
Come on now, Dave. You better. Yes.
I hear you say that, and I'm like, man, it is true. Because, if you live in that space, if you stay in that space, that's where you'll always be. And so you'll never be able to, even as you grow outwardly, on the inside, you're still that same person. And if you don't deal with the issues, and if you don't, because that's how it gets passed to generation to generation. I like to say people pass recipes, and they pass all these things, on for generations. But also the other things that get passed along are domestic violence, criminal behavior, alcoholism. All of these things get passed. And if you don't deal with it, you just pass it. You kick the bucket down the road, and that makes absolutely no sense.
That's powerful.
But because some people don't, their pride is so big, they say, I can do this. Especially, I know for men, we're conditioned and made to think that, okay, we can carry everything on our shoulder. We don't need nobody to tell us what we're supposed to do. We got this. No, sometimes you don't, and it's okay. It's okay to say I'm not okay.
That's it.
It does not diminish your manhood. It does not diminish your adulthood. It to me, it is a sign of strength.
That's
to be able to say, I need help. So with that said, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. I know y'all got questions. Somebody has a question. Now, I did see a comment from someone, and okay, here we go. From T-Rix, that's my niecey. Mental abuse is also something to look out for. None is excusable, and recognizing the signs early is vital, as well as getting out.
Absolutely. Mental abuse is oftentimes is worse because you can't, yes, physical abuse, it heals, right? My lip I lost feeling still, but it's healed. The mental abuse and the conditioning that I went through, the emotional abuse that not just me, that people go through, that's the conditioning that if it's not identified and healed from a therapeutic way, it'll eat you up. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, because some people turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, and yeah, that numbs it. And for that moment, it's gone. But when you wake up the next morning, or whenever it is you wake up and you're sober and your mind becomes clear, it reverts back to that same thing, and you're sitting there like, oh, this wasn't a dream. Nah, it's real.
That's it.
You know, so
that's it.
Alrighty, here we go. Oh, Tata is on the ball here.
I love it.
She says, wait, where'd it go? All right. Do you think it would be beneficial to teach school-age kids about different types of abuse and early signs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Community outreach. And if that's something that resonates for her, you said that's your niece?
Yes.
We have to. Absolutely. And there's programs available. And that's why I honor your platform, David, because I don't think that people realize that there's resources, that there's community outreach. There are programs, there are agencies or organizations that go into schools. I never knew about them. I know it now, but absolutely it is. It's very beneficial because you think about it, had I knew what healthy love looked like, had he knew what healthy love looked like from a little girl, instead of being passed down, like you said, the recipe of domestic violence and unhealthy love, maybe it would have been changed. Even my stepfather, if he would have been taught at an early age, like you don't touch people, you don't do that, myself and my sister's life could have been different. So to answer your question, absolutely, absolutely. And not only to identify early signs, but to maybe uneducate the physical abuse. Like, I know you might see this at home, but this is, maybe you give a person a hug or you walk away, don't hit them.
Okay. Yeah. All righty, here we go. And the question is the guy locked up for what he has done?
Good question. He bailed. He was never locked up, no. And he bailed out of jail for $20.
Wow.
For $20. Yeah.
A ham sandwich and a soda.
Come on now.
Depending on where you live.
That's what my life is worth. A ham sandwich and a soda.
Wow. It's crazy. They tell you, okay, you need to report it. You need to, report them and make sure you be very detailed. And if you've got scars, take pictures, go get help and call the police or go through the court system, get a restraining order. But yet you did all that and it was just $20. But luckily you were able to be surrounded by people that are just so phenomenal, who love you, who care for you, who want to see you progress. And that is a great thing. Let's see, here we go. And Tanya Steele says, hi, Jamie. I just want to know, how do you deal with this new powerful celebrity platform you have been thrown? I'm sure your story has resonated with so many and is so powerful. How do you deal?
So Miss Steele is one of my village supporters that's walked this journey alongside of me. She literally has been there from the time that I went into the shelter to where I am now. And I oftentimes talk to her about how shocked I am that all of this is opened up for me. So how do I deal with it? I keep you on the phone till 11, 12 o'clock at night, helping me process it all, my dear friend. I love you. I love you.
See, that's what I was talking about, the village.
Yeah.
The people in the village. You know, they care, and you'll never know. And you know, I like to say when adversity hits, you never know that you will find a strength. The strength will come, and you'll be like, if this happens, I won't be able to deal with it. If this happens, I won't be able to. But when it happens, you will find a strength that you didn't know that you had. And so you're able to push through. And then as you push through, people that have gone through it, they reach back. And that's the thing. You know, we have to reach back and help those that need help. Let's see. Here we go. Joyce, your life have more value than that now because you are a valuable tool for women.
Thank you, sis. Thank you. Thank you. That kind of stuff just blows me away because it lets me know, and I hope anyone else that's going through or have gone through it lets us know that our pain, right? The Bible talks about how God catches our tears, right? And that it just lets us know that the pain wasn't in vain, but we have to make the decision to push and overcome. So thank you, Joyce. I appreciate you.
All right, here we go. I tell you, my niece, she's just a busy little beaver over here. She says, I'm a volunteer for girls' health education, and my girls range in age from 8 to 12. And I can't wait until I get to the instruction about this topic.
Love it. We have to connect. What's her name?
Her name is Tavia Ricks.
Tavia.
I will give her your information.
Absolutely.
And she'll reach out, or you can reach out, and y'all can hook up. Because this is what it's all about.
That's it.
Each one teach one.
That's it.
You know, I have three granddaughters, and you know, the thought of, you know, something like that happening, you know, even with my daughter, she's in here somewhere, cutie chewy. She's in here. That's my baby girl. She's the only girl, and she's tough as nails, but she wasn't always so tough. And to think that somebody would, you know, if somebody would do something like that to her, you know, I'm not a violent person, but I you know, I'm glad that I wasn't pushed to have to deal with something like that, you know, because it happens to kids, and, you know, somehow they try to normalize it and make it seem like, you know, it's okay, but it's not. It's not normal. It's not okay. You know, no child, boy or girl, should have to live a life other than the life of a regular child, like to be able to go out and run in and make mud pies. I remember as a kid, we used to make mud. We go to North Carolina, and my cousins and I, we'd be down there and we make mud pies. And, you know, we go to I lived across the street from the rec center, and, you know, they would turn the fire hydrant on in the summertime, you know, stuff like that, you know, but to have to live that and grow up with that, you know, it's crazy. But I'm thankful and grateful for you and people like you who understand that if I don't tell my story, if I keep this to myself, there's somebody that needs to hear it. I can't hold it, you know. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. I commend you. I appreciate you. I'm so glad that I sent that DM and you answered, and it's like, okay, you know, I don't know what else to say. You know, I'm just grateful, and thank you so much for spending time. And I thank my people for coming in. Your people, that your village. I'm just grateful to be able to have this platform. You know, the reason why it came along is because I had to put my pride aside, because I used to just do the whole thing by myself, and I'm like, I'm just going to talk. And I found that people really don't want to hear me talk. And I'm like, okay, you got to put your pride aside, and you have to figure out a way to get the word out. So I'm like, okay, I will be a facilitator. I will find people that have a story, that want to tell the story, because, you know, and they may say, well, he doesn't have very many guests, but they are willing to. And like I said, I don't care about those that don't show up. My job is to make sure the people that do show up get the message.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for the 16 people that are in here. 17. I thank you all so much. Jamie, yeah. I'm going to let whatever it is you want to say at this moment, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Wow, David, again, thank you. I honor you, brother. Thank you for your platform. Thank you for your diligence. I know what it looks like to put your pride and ego and all that stuff to the side to live and rock in your purpose. So thank you for playing full out and being on the court and stood on the sidelines. I appreciate it with my whole heart. Yeah, so make sure I want to connect with your niece. So if you find yourself in a domestic violence situation, I don't care if you're the victim or you are the person that's committing the abuse. I challenge you all to reach out to the 1-800 National Domestic Violence Hotline. If you're in the Houston area Women's Center. David just pinned the domestic violence hotline number. Reach out, you all. And the reason why I say that is what I know to be certain, and what I found is that there are trained advocates. There are people that are on the phone. You can even, email or text that this is their life's purpose. This is what drives them, is to help people impacted by domestic violence, like figure out what is the best next move for you. If you find yourself supporting someone that's experiencing domestic violence, David touched on this earlier, please, you all, especially amongst the African-American community, let's stop judging. Let's stop saying what we would do if we're in that situation, because at the end of the day, the person that's in the abuse, they're already coexisting with someone that it makes them feel less than. So just be mindful of that. And if it means getting, therapy, let's heal, right? Let's remove the stigma around mental illness and therapy, and let's get rid of this compact trauma that a lot of us are working or living and coexisting with. So again, David, thank you. I honor you, brother. Thank you for using your platform to make a difference, to shed light on this topic that's impacted us for far too long, and being the change agent. Let's shift the narrative.
Okay. Now, how can people reach you or get in touch with you, or where can they find you?
Where can they find me? I'm on Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram, you all. I'm shifting from Facebook. No, not shifting from. I'm building my Instagram fan base up because I maxed out the 5,000 people on my Facebook page. And I can be found at Jamie, and that's JAMIER Wright Speaker on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Facebook. So that's Jamie R. Wright Speaker. And you can actually visit my website too, which is jamierwright.com. If you want to book me to come speak at an event, to speak on your podcast, to speak to you individually in an effort to just raise awareness and provide the education that I know about in support of domestic violence, you can book me on my website, or you can like David, just send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. So yeah, that's where you can find me. All the social media platforms.
Well, Jamie, again, thank you so much. I'm going to text my niece this information because I'm sure she didn't get it all. And I'll send her your email and everything so that she can get in touch with you. Again, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. I commend you for what you're doing. You're great, and you're living in your purpose. You had to go through everything you had to go through in order for you to be able to share. Because if you didn't go through it, you'd just be, hey, that's my girl Jamie. But you are here right now with your story and sharing it without stress. I mean, it's like come on, have a cup of coffee, and let me tell you, I got a story. Let me tell you, so thank you. See, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I would definitely be in touch to get that information for the other people.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So, yes. I have some powerhouses that I'm working alongside of impacting the community. Honored to be, like
Shell.
Yeah.
Hey, so, Shell. So again, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody that tuned in, took the time to tune in.
Subscribe
to David's YouTube channel. It's powerful, y'all.
Thank you so much. Everybody, I thank you all for coming through. It is 8 o'clock and I finished on time. All right. I thank you. I will see you all. I'm on vacation next week, so there won't be a show. We are traveling to parts unknown. That's usually how we roll. We start out with a plan and it always ends up, whatever. So thank you all so much. I will see you all on the 11th. Jamie, again, thank you. And to everyone, thank you so much. And until we meet again, remember, be happy on purpose and know that I believe in you too. Good night, everybody.